Hello guys. I just found out that the Atari 800 core can actually work without having a secondary SD card, and it's not mentioned anywhere in the documentation, so I'm making a quick video to show you how to do that. So first, create your MiSTer SD card, and if you don't know how to do that, well, click on this link that's shown on the video and watch that video and set up your SD card. Now the next thing we need to do is set up the Atari 800 core. So I'm going to click on this link here and go to releases and find the latest core that's available. So that would be this one here, and download it. Now next thing I need to do is go to my downloads folder, and I've already downloaded this once, so I'm going to need to rename it once I get this over. So let's copy this to my MiSTer SD card. I'm going to just remove the .1 or the /1 on there. I always leave the date for the core, and that way I know I'm running the latest core if there's a newer one. Now the next thing we need to do is let's go back a page. We need this SD card.zip, and what that contains is the ROMs that are necessary to run the 800XL. So let's go to my downloads folder. I'm going to extract all. And these two directories need to be in the root. So I'll get rid of this extraneous stuff now. So in here is where you put all, this is where the ROMs are. So the 800XL ROM or the OSB, Atari Basic, and I think this is a modern version of the Atari 800. I'm not 100% sure. And this is where you put all of your programs that you need. And I see they've included a few like Boulder Dash so that you can actually test out your system. So here comes the next tricky part, the part that's not documented anywhere. So you have to create a virtual hard drive. And I'm going to show you how to do that under Windows 7. I assume the procedure is very similar under Windows 10. So right click on computer, or under Windows 10 I think it's called this PC, and choose manage. Under disk management, click on that. So scroll down to the bottom here and right click, say here, and now you can do an action such as create a virtual hard disk. So click on that. You have to create it on your local machine temporarily, so I'm going to call this Atari Atari Games.vd8 VHD virtual hard disk. And the size, well, 256 is probably big enough, so I'll just say that. Now you'll notice it's not initialized, so you have to right click on it and say initialize disk. and MBR is fine. Now the disk is initialized but not formatted. So now let's create a new simple volume. I'm going to make it the full size. We'll assign it to drive E, but we're going to use FAT as the drive. Atari Games. And we'll perform a quick format. And voila. So now we have a new drive letter E, and actually these two directories that I copied here before actually have to be on the virtual hard drive. So let's just move these over. And I'm going to leave these here because maybe someday I'll need those files again. So here we go. We got the two files on there. We know we have a bunch of games inside of here, so that's good. So now we want to detach the drive. So here, you right click on the drive and say detach virtual hard disk. Remember, it's under C, Atari Games. We don't want to delete it. So let's go to our drive C and look for that file and copy it to our root of our MiSTer drive. Voila! Now I'll safely eject the SD card. Okay, now let's move over to our MiSTer board and set that up. Okay, now we're going to take that SD card that I created and put it into my system. I've got an I/O gear on the go hub, so I have a keyboard and a gamepad that I'm using for playing games with the system. So let's power it on. Make sure you have your HDMI on first before you power on your MiSTer, or it may not be visible. So now I'm just going to move you over here. Okay, I'm going to press enter. And you get a big black screen. So what you really want to do is press F12 and mount the VDH. So I think it's, here we go, the Atari Games. And I should turn up the volume so you can hear the wonderful sounds that come out of this machine. So we booted into BASIC. So press F12 again, and let's load a file into the drive. So if you do, bring up your keyboard and press the right arrow. You can look at the directory, and let's load Boulder Dash here. Press enter. We'll exit, and on the keyboard I believe it's F10 to reboot the computer. That didn't load. Let's see. If I remember correctly, F8 is option and F10 is reboot. So let's see if it will boot. Ah, there we go. There we go. We have the Atari 800 working with just one more step. if you press F12, you can also save your state, so you don't have to continually add that virtual hard disk in. Oh, and say save all the states. So let's make this NTSC. Let's bring up the RAM to 1 meg. Save. Oh, I can do joystick buttons from here. Huh. Right, left, down, up, fire. I don't have a paddle. ROM select. Okay, I'll make this the ROM select, and I'll make this the OCD button. And hit save. So now whenever I press this, I can choose what file I want to load. So let's load a newer version of Boulder Dash, because that one looked like crap. Now, I think F9 is start. Nope. Oh, this must be the PAL version. Well, let's go in here and change it to PAL. Let's load a different game. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on how to set up MiSTer for an Atari 800. This is an interesting exercise for me. I've got a couple of Ataris already, but I can't take them on business trips, of course. So now I'll be able to take my MiSTer board with me, and on those long, lonely nights, I'll be able to have a few video games to keep me entertained. So get out there and retro compute.